On a pale winter evening, when the sky hung low and the land lay silent beneath a skin of snow, a wealthy cowboy named Ethan rode across the open plains, his black horse slowing as something unfamiliar tugged at his attention, for standing beside a broken, forgotten cabin was a young woman whose presence felt like a question the world had long avoided answering. She wore a thin, worn dress that did little to protect her from the cold, and yet she stood upright, proud in a quiet way, her hands trembling not just from the freezing wind but from the weight of a life shaped by loss, and as Ethan dismounted, his polished boots sinking into the snow, he noticed the tears clinging to her lashes like fragile crystals, tears that spoke of hunger, loneliness, and nights spent listening to wolves howl beyond rotting wooden walls. The cabin behind her leaned as if exhausted by time, its roof broken, its door hanging open like a mouth too tired to speak, and Ethan, a man known across towns for his wealth and hardened sense of survival, felt something inside him crack as he listened to her soft voice explain how her family had once lived there, how sickness and winter had taken them one by one, leaving her alone with memories and a stubborn refusal to leave the only place that still felt like home. He saw then that her tears were not begging, not weakness, but the overflow of strength carried too long without rest, and in that moment the distance between rich and poor, powerful and powerless, seemed painfully small. The wind howled, urging him to leave, reminding him of warm houses and full tables waiting somewhere far away, yet his heart refused the comfort of turning back, for the silence in her eyes echoed louder than any storm, and so he offered her food, then shelter, and finally a promise that surprised even himself. A promise not spoken with grand words but with the simple act of removing his coat and placing it gently around her shoulders. As the sun slipped behind the frozen hills, painting the snow in shades of gold and shadow, Ethan realized that wealth had never been about the land he owned or the money he carried, but about the choices he made when no one was watching, and as the woman looked up at him with cautious hope, he understood that this meeting beside a ruined cabin was not an accident but a turning point, a moment where two broken paths crossed to form something new, something warmer than any fire, and together they stood in the cold, no longer strangers, bound by a shared silence and the fragile beginning of trust that promised a future neither of them had believed was still possible.